Is that?
That's fair enough, thank you.
Okay. All right, so a piece like this, on the outside, I would start with the outside. I would sand, I would get all these ridges going, I would get the grade tear out, I would get this shape like I want it on the main body of the piece. Then I would work the details, like this foot here. This was just a demonstration piece. I would never put this piece on my shelf. If you bought it, I'd put it on your shelf, but nobody's going to buy a shape like this. So I would sand that sucker. Then I would sand the neck, and you have to decide, am I going to put a finial in this or is it going to be open? Whatever shape you're going to put, sand the neck. Then you go on the inside. And depending upon how this piece is going to be used, you may want to sand just the part that people would see. Never mind. If they look in like this, right? If it had a really small hole, there's no need to sand on the inside up here. Why waste your time with it? If it's going to be open like this, I can see the entire inside of this piece. I need to sand everything, right? So I would, if it had a small opening, I would sand just the very inside using that little extension bar or forceps or something, and not worry about the rest of it. If you can put your fingers in, we all do it. You pick it up, first thing you do is run your fingers on the inside. Maybe all you do is you sand on the inside as far as your fingers will go. Don't waste your time sanding the rest of it. Because I guarantee you, if it's got a hole big enough for anybody's finger, Kathy will do it. She's got smaller fingers than we do. She'll stick her little finger in one of these little miniatures and says, ooh, that's rough. Right? Only another turner would do it. An art collector won't do it. So then you sand the walls on the inside, whatever it needs to be. Then you take it off and you sand the bottom. Put a detail on the bottom, sand it, put rings, circles, whatever you're going to do. So that's the procedure. The materials you need, sanding sealer. Sanding sealer is good if you have grain that likes to bend like this. You put a coat of sanding sealer on it, let it dry. When you sand it, it'll cut a little bit better. And camphor is really bad about needing sanding sealer. And I use the cellulose sanding sealer, cut it 1 part sanding sealer, 2 parts lacquer thinner. You need the forceps sanding disc pads, flap sanders. I don't have any of those, I don't use them, but flap sander is good for really roughing if you have a really coarse outside surface. The pneumatic sander, the palm sander, is another good one to use if you have a big enough flat spot. A palm sander will give you that circular scratches. And I've shown you all the rest of stuff. Meal buffing is not sanding, but it's a good way to finish. And compressed air for moving the chips. While you're turning, I don't make many tools, but believe it or not, I made that one. Coat hanger, and that's good for digging out the shavings on the inside, especially through a smaller opening that you can't get your fingers in because compressed air won't blow them out either. So you can either use this end with a big opening, or that end if you have to reach in a small hole and hook the shavings like this. Right? And then you can do the rest of the shaping the way you want to. Okay, and the last thing, I'm going to pass these out. This is resources. This is not anywhere near a comprehensive list of sanding supply vendors. The first one on there, you can tell Bruce, he's the first one on the list, sanding glove. Okay, but it's the common ones. It's the ones I buy from all the time. And I have Woodcraft on there. I think Woodcraft is second. Okay, I am mindful of where I am. So we're going to do a little bit of sanding on the outside. I'm not going to sand the whole thing. And I like to use the side angle grinder with a 3-inch pad for a piece this big. And this piece is pretty good, so I'm going to start with 220, see if I can do that. And one thing you need to do, I buy my sandpaper discs in boxes of 50. Some of them you have the grit written right there. It depends on how they stamp them out. You may not have the grit. So I take a felt tip marker. Like that one didn't get it, so I marked 1200 because when this is laying on your lathe, you have no idea what the grit is. So make sure they're marked. Trust me on that one. So I'm going to start with a 220. And it's going to rotate this way. Not. Remember I told you, Billy, I shouldn't be doing that. As slow as you can get it to go. I changed the belts to the smallest pulley on the motor, turning the biggest pulley on the shaft. And that's as slow as this variable speed to go. At home, I'd probably turn a little bit slower than that, but I have no control. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to sand with the lower part of this disc right here. You won't be able to see it unless Keith can get around here with the camera. I don't know. Try the overhead. Let's see if we can show it right here. I don't want to go any faster than that. All right, so I'm going to stand to the side. If I stand right here, I don't have any control over this thing. I want this head to be able to sort of float with the curve because I don't want to change the curve. I work too hard with my ball gouge to get that curve. So I'm going to stand to the side, and I'm going to let this ride with the wood with a light touch. Now it's easy to get distracted and go faster and faster and faster, and then you realize, holy cow, what have I done? Bruce has a solution. It's a trigger spacer. And this, you put a rubber band around it, and you put it under here, and you adjust it up and down however you want it. So no matter what I do, I can't go any faster than that. Now I've been doing it long enough, I don't need it anymore. The rubber band kept drying out and breaking. But so I'm going to sand on this a little bit, see how this 220 is doing. Now the other thing you need when you're sanding is oblique light. That certainly qualifies as oblique, although not nearly bright enough. I have the Thompson stand with the double lights, and they come in different angles and stuff. And you know, I can do this with 220. But the way it's bouncing is sort of skipping over some of the scratches. Just go ahead and bite the bullet and go down to 120, as much as my pride hates to admit it. I do have 120. I saw a cartoon once, and the woodworker was retiring, and somebody took a piece of paper and glued 3 stones to it. And they gave it to him and told him it was 3 grit sandpaper. Especially made for him. Alright, so in that short amount of time, those little scratches that I've been bouncing over, they're gone. Just by doing that. Now I can go back to the 220. That's all I had to do. It didn't take long. So, this one doesn't reverse now. Okay, so I'm going to stand on this side. That's my reverse. But what I can do is I can reverse the drill. So now I'm sanding sort of at the opposite radial pattern with 220. No big speed, no big hurry. I'm not standing still. So I've gone through, probably the most I would do is 400 grit. I've stopped, I've looked at it, I've had lights coming at angles, and you look at it very critically. If you say, oh, nobody will notice that, they'll notice that. Mm-hmm. Guaranteed. Just wait till you put the finish on, then you got to sand all your finish off and go back and do it again. So if you have an angle on your light, I can see scratches. I mean, this is 220, I'm going to see scratches. The eye can see scratches up to 600 or 700. Beyond that, your eye can't see them, but it'll see the reflected light once you put a finish on it. So most pieces, you don't need to go past 400. But you got to have an oblique light source and look for the scratches. If you still got scratches you can see after 400, go back and sand it with 320 again. Right? It's worth the trouble. Another thing you can do is you can alternate forward, reverse, and then radial. Take this, you can put the little rubber block on it or just your fingers. Now I've got straight scratches. So I've got some scratches going this way, some going this way, and some going this way. That's going to blend all of them together. It'll help fool the eye a lot better. And again, this is not too hot on my fingers because I'm not going fast and I'm not pressing hard. I can sand like this and the sandpaper will rip out. And then I'll throw it away and get another piece. All right. If you have an air compressor, between grits, blow this off because these grits are falling out. And the grits are embedding in the wood. So if you go 120, and you got a piece of the 120 grit in here, you come back with your 220, it picks up that piece of 120, and now you got a 120 scratch in the middle of it. You say, how is that happening? So take your air gun and blow all the dust off of it in both directions, cleaned it up good. So you're going to go through this all the way through 400, 600, whatever you're going to do. You'll come do the next, I'm sorry, you'll do the detail at the bottom, and that's where I use, well, if I've got a, that's why you put that little thing under there. Where did I put that? All right, so for getting in here, you want to protect the detail, all right? Now, this is not a very good bead, I didn't want it to be. But I don't want to screw that up with sandpaper. So if I just take the sandpaper in and do that, I've screwed up the bead, or cove, or whatever, or a sharp edge. So I want to be as careful with this as I was when I used a tool to cut it. So I'm going to crease this, and I'm going to get it run right up to that straight edge, and I will go back and forth a little bit. And then to sand the bead, now I'd normally be doing this back here, but I'll start here, and I'll roll the sandpaper that way, and roll the sandpaper this way. And that can help your beads a lot. I'm still not really good at beads with my skew or my spindle gouge. Is that showing up? But you see how I'm rolling the sandpaper this way for half the bead and this way for half the bead? I don't want to stop on top because it'll make it flat. And that's what I was just trying to get out. I can't sand the bottom because that's a knuckle buster. So I'll have to do that when I reverse the piece. All right, so we're done with the outside now. Any questions about any of this up to now? 20 minutes. That's quick. Now I can't use this on the inside unless I use that big beast, and that'll take that long. So I would switch back to my old favorites. Oh, I didn't show you this one. Now this you can't. Bruce sell these? I bought this from Bruce. This is the Guinevere sanding system. And it's a pair of pneumatic, I didn't think to show this one. All right, so that's really good for sanding inside rounded areas or up underneath the collar, under the rim. That's pneumatic, you put these sanding sleeves on it. Then you have this pain in the butt pump. It is so hard to do this because it's like having anybody ever changed a tire themselves, changed the rubber off a tire from the rim? You know, you have to pop the rubber underneath there. This will pop out here in no time and you got to reset it. But you pump this up to whatever pressure you need, if you need it really hard or really soft. Put this on the end of any of your tool holding pieces, and then you can sand inside the bottom, up underneath the rim, wherever you need to. And you got a flat one, if you had like that base I was piercing in that's just got the straight walls, you would use something like this if the walls were flat. Now, these are neat tools if you can get past the aggravation factor.
You use it a lot?
I do. Use it a lot. In fact, I bought a bunch of extra sleeves for it. Working way through. But what we'll do for the inside, since I don't want to power up for that, I can't start with 400 on the inside. I will start with 80 grit on the inside, and I'm hoping maybe you can see through this hole here some. I don't know. I'm also hoping I don't come through the side. Let's see if I spin it faster.
Let's turn off the lights. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, don't turn off my light. There we go. There we go. All right. So, listen to the sound. I'm not touching anything. Now I'm getting pretty good sanding on it. And I'll take this and I'll go back and forth. Now you can see I'm having trouble getting up under here because of this lip. The way that lip is shaped, this stick is not very good for doing up underneath this rim. I can make it work. That's another reason you see. Did you guys see that spin in my hands? Didn't do any damage, didn't hurt me, didn't hurt the piece, because I'm holding it around in my hands with a very light grip. I don't have a death grip. Don't want a death grip on it. It's a light touch, so if I have a problem, this thing just spins in my hand. So I can't stand up underneath there very well. Out here I can do okay. And go into the bottom. And then if I have put enough material on the end that it'll fold over on the ends. I can do the bottom nib with this. Now, I know you can't see that, but just don't panic if you have a problem like that. The one thing you don't want to do is try to force this out. By holding that still and letting everything stabilize itself, it survived.